If you're looking to figure out how to build a proper database and make a whole pile of money, you came to the right place. Today, we have a very special guest, the CEO of Follow Up Boss, one of the top CRMs on the planet, is coming on to chop it up and talk all things CRMs. And we're going to answer questions for you like, do you even need a CRM? How do you use it? They can be very overwhelming. So we are going to simplify it, make it practical and tactical for you to understand the concepts of how this can change everything for you in your business. This is not a paid placement at all. I am not for sale. I bring people on to this podcast that are just exceptional in building really cool things in the world, and we chop it up. So we're going to talk about CRMs at a very, very high level. If you're here and you want to ask questions live, you can go to the YouTube channel and you can actually drop it in the comments. If you're in our private closed Facebook group, you can actually go in there and get the StreamYard link and you can come stream, bomb us, and ask your question live. So that is the Practical and Tactical group on Facebook. And as always, we're on LinkedIn as well. So lots of ways to watch the show. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and not to miss a future episode with monsters like Dan. But let's get right into the episode.
Welcome to the Prime People Podcast, where we cover all things that got us to where we are today, our team building strategies, the marketing and sales tips that we've learned through thousands of transactions, productivity tips, ways to really just hold yourself accountable to accomplishing what you want to accomplish, and all things content creation, personal development, and not to mention we have some of the best guests on the planet.
We definitely do. And today we have Dan Corkill himself. Dan, welcome to the show.
Hey, Justin. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I love the intro.
Yeah, thanks, brother. Well, it is true, right? I have told you and the entire team, like Tristan, and I think of April, who's on your success team, that I've been communicating with for years, how integral having a proper CRM has been. And like I said at the beginning of the show, this isn't a paid placement by any means. We just happen to be using a system that we use internally. And it's been really interesting to watch your company grow. My favorite thing, and I'll tell you this from the jump, is that you guys are constantly adjusting and growing. Right? The guy that you saw at the end of that intro reel, his name's Scott McGilvery from the TV show Income Property, one of my mentors, close friend. And his organization's always done the same thing. They take critical feedback, they adapt it, they kind of grow the operation, and you guys have done that. So I guess out of the gate, before we even get into your backstory, how you created Follow Up Boss, can you explain to our users or the people that are watching what a proper CRM actually is for context?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think a lot of people have, different thoughts about what it is. I mean, what we really try and do for our clients is bring all their contacts, their leads, their past clients, their clients all into one system so they can get organized and so they can help grow their business with just like more leverage strategies. So for example, like when I was starting this business, every agent I talked to said they know they will make more money if they do more follow-up. And so that's why we're called Follow Up Boss, because we help people do that. But that's sort of, every salesperson intuitively knows that. So we're just helping people get organized and do more. And then more leverage things as well you can do once you have a database, right? Like email marketing or retargeting people on Facebook. And so I think it's also, you just need to get organized so you can implement some of those strategies, which, are going to save you a lot of time, but allow you to reach a lot of people.
Well, let's break the second myth though. Like a lot of people would think, well, I'm too small to be using a CRM. Like at what point would my business need to integrate a system like a CRM?
Yeah, I think it's the sooner the better, even though we run a CRM company, so I kind of made bias to say that. But I think, even if you just start small with, a few hundred people or the people et cetera, like our biggest database is 1 million plus contacts. And that's still just started with one, person being put in there, right? So everyone starts small. My business started very small. I'm sure your business started very small. So I think it's like, I think it's a little bit flipping that mindset of like, I'm small. How can I leverage my time? How can I leverage technology? Because if you're just living deal to deal, like you're not really building an asset, right? So I think the sooner you can start building that, some people call it a data bank, like the better, really.
Yeah, amen to that. I mean, I would answer that question with day one. Had I known what I know now, I would keep it really simple. And let's talk again, high level across platforms. Doesn't matter what CRM you use. Just start with the basics, right? Name, phone number, email address, and tags. because then you're not beholden to any one platform. You're not working off your brokerage's platform. If you ever needed to flex, you still own the database. But that's a mistake people make early on, is they don't actually own their database. And every time they make a shift, they're starting from scratch. So maybe best practices, right? Justin Konikow, I come to you, Dan. I'm getting personal coaching from you. I'm like, what do I do, man? I've got my phone list. I got 2,000 people in there. Do I just export them all to Follow Up Boss? I did that. Not the smartest move. How would you actually coach me on integrating my contact list into my CRM?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd first of all just try and get everyone that you have in your phone or any other kind of lists or Excel files or whatever in there. Definitely tags or stages to start, just so you can categorize people. I mean, maybe even just start simplest, like who are my past clients, right? Because you should really be taking good care of them, making sure, like, are they thinking, to buy or sell again, or can they refer you to anyone? So, don't sort of look at it. I think what happens to a lot of people is they look at it, this task is too big. I don't want to do it. I don't like technology maybe, or I'm scared. I'm going to mess something up. But I think just sort of start small. Like if you can just work on a little bit of organization every day, start with your past clients, get that categorized. Then move into like, okay, who's looking to buy and sell soon? Like those are also really important people, right? Who should I touch base with that I maybe haven't in a while? And that's, for everyone, that's normally a pretty big list of people, right? So again, just don't make it overwhelming. Don't make it like I need to follow up with 1,000 people tomorrow, because you're never going to do that. Just how can I reach out to maybe 10 of the people that I know I should be, or 5? Just start small, I would say. Yeah.
You guys have a really cool email list. Anybody looking for kind of coaching on that side of things? Is it public? Can anybody sign up for that list, or is it only for users?
We sometimes have slightly different emails, but yeah, if you get on our email list just by signing up for a trial of the system or from our blog, you will get a lot of the content and events and trainings and webinars for sure. So
the reason I say that, so our boy Tristan, he's coming on the podcast as well too. I'm always following his stuff too. Like he's been part of the Clubhouse rooms. That's actually how I met him and you to start with. And, the stuff they talk about is so integral, right? They take one simple concept. And again, it doesn't apply to just your system. It applies to all systems. It's such a good way of looking at CRMs and systems. And you said something that I want to point out because I just heard it recently. Somebody said, how different would your business look if the only thing you could do was work with your past clients? You didn't get a single more lead coming in. The phone didn't ring, nothing online, just your past client database. How differently would you treat your database? What would your answer be to that question?
Yeah, I'm imagining most people just give their clients a lot more love. Like even for our own business at Follow Up Boss, right? Like we're constantly got our current clients that we love. Then there's people we've worked with in the past that some of them we'd love to have back, right? And then there's also just these new clients coming in. And yes, sometimes you can get a little too focused on the new and not enough focused on, for sure, like your current clients or your past clients. So I think it's a really good question. I mean, I think even kind of like the follow-up of that is like, which of those past clients do you want to work with? Like obviously people probably want to filter out a few of the nightmare clients. But then if you can work with your great past clients that you really enjoyed working with, and then I'm sure again, like they can introduce you to other great clients. I think that's a great question for sure. And that's the power of having a database of past clients or people that know you versus just like, oh, I'm just waiting only for that new lead to come in from Facebook, which, as we know, it's just going to be a very different like chase and, experience.
Yeah, for sure. And the other thing you guys do is segment really well. We're going to get to that in a moment. So everybody that's in the actual live stream, there's a whole bunch of you here, and appreciate all the comments. So when I see the Facebook user comments, there is a link you have to click for StreamYard that's going to actually show your face. So if Eric, producer eScarf, if you can drop that link in the private Facebook groups so that they can activate their faces and they want to come on the stream, by all means. And we also have a private StreamYard link for special guests. If you want to come on and ask a question to Dan live, we do this show for the people and we'd love to be stream bombed. I just saw our friend Renee said to say, what's up? I'm in a private group chat with her and some people. And she said to say, hi, Dan. I know she integrates it in a very big way. Renee Funk is an absolute monster. Her organization kills it with Follow Up Boss. Going back to the segmentation piece, Dan. So now I've created a database. I've got 2,000 people in there. I've got some buyers. I've got some sellers. I've got some past clients. How do you look at segmentation? Because I use it to separate my real estate and my personal brand business and the mailing lists that I send out. But again, if we're starting from our white belt level, how would you coach somebody through properly segmenting a database?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one of the interesting things with us is like we have so many different people running different systems on Follow Up Boss. So it is like, again, we have that guy with 1 million contacts in his database, and then we have power teams like Renee, doing stuff and yourself. And then, we have, single agents. So it's very flexible. But I would say, past clients is the easy one. Then I would say, your hot people that are looking to really do something soon.
Sure.
Set up your new leads. We call them smart lists, but there's similar things in other systems, filters and so on. And then I think you really want to try and just focus in on essentially having like 3 lists like that. And then what's your game plan for each one of those lists? So
I got my remarkable tablet. I'm paying attention. I'm just writing this down as you actually write it. That's awesome.
My wife got me one the other day. It was a little bit. I haven't really gotten into using it tons, but they're pretty cool. Yeah. I have to get some tips from you after the episode.
Honestly, in the beginning, I'm like, I got my paper notebook, I got my iPad, I'm like, I don't need another device, but I can tell you I've been using it more and more, and it's pretty nifty. Looks like we have a special guest, actually, one of my boys from Montreal, Olivier Maurice. What's up, man? How are you?
Hey, bro. Well, I have dogs around me though, so you might hear some barking.
You're fine. We're not sensitive. We're not putting on the Super Bowl commercial. This is the Prime People podcast. So Olivier, introduce yourself, where you're from, and ask Dan a question.
So hi, I'm Olivier from Montreal, and actually, yes, I do a lot of commercial real estate. So my question to you, Dan, was what was the biggest mistake you see people do with their CRM?
It's a good one. I would say the number one is probably just not doing enough, like not doing anything really. Like, again, just looking at it as a bit of an overwhelming task. I think if you can just start small, implement some extra things that you're not doing now, whether that's some extra follow-up or like a monthly email newsletter, then I think you'll really be in a good place. I guess we did talk just quickly about segmenting then. That could be another mistake if you don't get a bit organized at the start, then it becomes very hard because you don't want to be sending the same stuff to like your past clients as like your new leads, etc. So I'd say probably those 2 things.
So actually using it, like we all know, right? Actually logging in every single day and using it. Thank you so much, Olivier. I appreciate the question.
Thank you.
That's awesome that people can come on. Thanks, Olivia.
Yeah, it is an open table, and Olivier is an awesome guy, actually. So again, a Clubhouse connection. We've spent thousands of hours, or probably maybe 1,000 hours at this point together, chopping it up. And his strategies in commercial real estate have helped me, and that's why we do the podcast. Is we really want people to feel like they can come on, and this whole group is for the people. So I'm glad you were able to make this work. Actually, Jamie Johan is in our group as well. Loves this conversation as a new Follow Up Boss user. She's loving the email follow-up plans. She's in the Practical and Tactical group when we were talking about this episode. People were fired up, man. So let's go back to the growth journey, and then we'll dig into some more tactical stuff. So like, where were you when you came up with the idea, and how do you even build a CRM? I'm so curious.
Yeah, it's been a long journey. So basically in 2011, I was working for someone else. So I was kind of doing like online marketing type stuff, building websites, landing pages, things like that. And I guess I got a bit of the entrepreneurial bug. Like I'd been reading a few blogs online and following some software guys. I'm like, wow, like I should quit my job and go traveling and have a crack at this. So that's kind of what I did. And basically, someone I was working with at the time, Tom, my co-founder, he's a really badass engineer. And so he was kind of like, Dan, I think we should start a software business. And I had just quit my job. And I'm like, sure, I got nothing else going for me. Like, let's do it. And I knew he was a really great engineer from working with him previously. So I think having a technical co-founder, starting a software business, it's like, not everyone does, but I think it's very important. It just depends on the type of software business as well. But I think for what we were doing, super critical. And then kind of long story short, we didn't really know what we were doing when we started the business. Like we didn't really have any clients in the first 6 months. We kind of had a general idea. We wanted to build a CRM and make small businesses more productive. But I ended up talking to a lot of real estate people in the U.S. and a few in Canada. And they were like, hey, we're really starting to buy all these online leads. This is in 2011 from Zillow. I'm spending a few $1,000s a month. And literally at the time, they would get an email saying, you got a new lead. And then they would just be watching a movie with their wife or something. And then they'll forward that email to one of their agents. And then they'd never see it again. Yep. And then we're just kind of like, okay, this doesn't sound very like efficient.
You're burning money, literally, right?
Exactly. It sounds like a very painful problem and probably going to get worse. So yeah, that was really the original idea. Like, let's just start automating some of that stuff for them, making it more efficient. And, we got a couple of clients, and then, word really spread from there. We're really lucky. I think the real estate industry is very collaborative, and there's a lot of masterminds and, great resources like this podcast where people are just sharing stuff that works.
Yep.
And yeah, we've just always tried to add value and, help our customers grow. And fortunately, they've been, champions, I guess, for our product, and let a lot of other people know, because, I'm just a kid from Australia, right? Like, no one really knew me before I got into this space 10 years ago. So.
Well, I'm excited about that answer because it's exactly what I thought it would be. And again, we didn't preface this with any scripting or anything. This episode's off the cuff. And I could kind of see that just by the way that you guys operate. You didn't wait for anybody to give you permission. You didn't have to be on the inner circle. And I do think our industry needs to change in a lot of ways. There's a lot of backroom deals that happens with local MLS boards and their control of technology. It's not necessarily the best thing for the consumer. It's not necessarily the best thing for the agents. And I think like the open marketplace is going to win. You bring a good product to market and it fits the profile of a certain clientele like me, let's go, right? Like I remember too, when you guys go through bumps in the road, we had a bit of an issue at one point with just some numbers interchanging and stuff like that. I called April. It took a bit of back and forth, but she actually addressed the problem. Like I could talk to a real human being. I could tell that she actually cared about it. And now I'm doubling down and saying like, yeah, as we grow, you guys are there for me, because life's not always going to be perfect. But if you can find people that are starting companies and align yourself with them, it makes life fun and it makes the work easy. And I'm sure you guys have some partners there too that are doing the same thing, right? That other companies you align yourself with, maybe in horizontal verticals that are right there with you, kind of going through the growth phases that you've been growing through.
Yeah, and I think like one of the luckiest things now for us is to have such a great team and such great clients who honestly, like I learned stuff from all our clients as well. So I think that's one of the exciting things that I don't think was necessarily always that way. Like when we're just starting the business, it's kind of just, harder. Like I didn't know anything about recruiting great people or retaining them. And, maybe some of our clients at the start were more just getting started with their real estate businesses. Whereas now we're just got, so many power users. And what you said was totally true as well. I think it helped us a little bit coming from Australia and not knowing how real estate works here, because all the systems were built for single agents.
Yep.
Sure. And like we were like, well, surely things must work as a team. And honestly, that was just dumb luck on my part. I'm like, that must be how it works. And then that's just been a trend, obviously, over the last 10 years. Like teams have just become, really the norm. So yeah, coming from outside, I think was a little bit of an advantage.
I've got some ideas for you too, and where I think the industry may be going. We'll do that on another episode, so I don't hijack this podcast and go down a wormhole. But we have one of my favorite people, Jen Mabry, is on the stream to ask you a question. Jen from Portland, Oregon, introduce yourself. How are you, friend? Oh, your mic is muted. Just hit that little microphone button in the top right hand of your little image there in the bottom corner. StreamYard's a little tricky. There you go.
Totally new to StreamYard. Sorry about this.
Yeah, you're good. Look at that backdrop. Look at you.
Wow, it's pro.
I look like I'm kind of in the jungle, right? That's what I'm going for.
You hit it out of the park. How are you doing today?
Jen Mabry, Portland, Oregon. You guys, this is amazing. Dan, thank you so much for all this. So I have been doing this for so long that they didn't really have CRMs when I started. So mine is kind of like a huge mess. Do you have any suggestions to sort of start to rebuild it? I guess the baby steps to start to rebuild it.
Sure. Like, I mean, what does your database look like now when you sort of say it's a big mess?
It looks like a circus full of monkeys and rabid raccoons, maybe. I don't know. It's emails. I mean, I have my email mailing list, and I use CRM through my brokerage, which is pretty robust. I just don't have it really pinpointed into like home anniversaries, birthdays, things like that. The things that I really want to keep in contact with my clients, the more personal aspects, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I would just try and start small, like with, again, like sort of making sure all your past clients are categorized. And then maybe you go in and you say, all right, let me just make sure I've got all my birthdays for all my past clients or all the home anniversaries, because I think, those are important touch points. And I know it's a big consumer complaint that, hey, once my agent gets their commission check, they do this vanishing act. And I think, there's a lot of, I think they're just super valuable. I think people are going to refer you more if you touch base with those kind of things. So yeah, I would just, again, it's kind of seems like an overwhelming big mess of a task, but I would try and just break it down and like, how could I just spend 30 minutes going in and just doing all the birthdays, or, spend an hour and go and make sure you got all those home anniversaries. And, you could also even double tap that, and like when you look up someone's home anniversary, shoot them a quick note. Hey, by the way, it's been 2.5 years. Can I help with anything? Can I shoot you a updated value of your home? The market's been a little wild, that kind of thing. So.
And also, Jen, a couple of notes that I've just developed. What Dan said, I layer everything, right? So I batch my work. The biggest difference maker for me was when I put 30 minutes in my calendar every morning for Follow Up Boss, 30 minutes at the end of my day, every day for Follow Up Boss. Not necessarily just follow up time or like finder time, but just in the system, going like person by person. And I'd pick like buyers one day or sellers one day and just keep it really simple. And now it got to the point that, like, say I'm going through past clients, I'm adding them to my newsletter tag, and then I'm adding them to, sending them a quick message at the same time, or even hopping on IG and, interacting with them there. Like, I really vary it up. It's just having that time block and starting with one thing first. So hopefully Dan will hire me if real estate doesn't work out. I think I'm just trying to give my best, Follow Up Boss employee support pitch there, but hopefully that was helpful.
No, that was wonderful. Thanks, guys. I also know that our friend Matt LaMarche, he sends a really nice email to people, kind of getting their information. And maybe I would do an email and then with a follow-up care call. So thank you. Great advice, you guys.
Awesome. I know Justin just froze there. We will have to carry the podcast on. Yeah, I think doing a monthly email newsletter, and I can't remember if I mentioned that before, but I do think that's a very leveraged thing you can be doing as well. And I think, again, some people make it a bigger task than it needs to be. You can be just reusing content from social media or videos or market stats. Yeah, I think it's a nice way to stay in touch and like pretty leveraged.
Do you think 2 is too much, or is there a point where you're just sending way too much?
No, I think the only reason I say monthly is because I think it's easier for people to get their head around doing it once a month. I think if you're sending out great content, then you can be doing like 2 or even more a month.
Perfect. It looks like it's just you and I now running Justin's podcast.
Yeah, I don't know how. I got a few other things I can talk about, but there might be.
I'm reading the questions on the side if you want to answer a couple questions.
Yeah, let's hit a few of those. That'll be awesome. Thanks for jumping in as the host.
Absolutely. Well, I hope I do Justin proud. Looks like our great friend Mia Zoll, she'd like to know when you will be adding more detail about, or she'd like more information on the agent pipeline, and then also when are you going to add forwarding emails?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm not 100% sure on agent pipeline. Maybe Mia's talking about deals, or if she just wants to put in more info there. Definitely.
I'm not sure.
Looks
like we have Jamie Johan is asking, can you talk about integrating BombBomb with Follow Up Boss?
Sure. Yeah. So we do have a BombBomb integration. You can just go in and like integrate the two right now, and that'll let you do video emails. So it's really nice. You can actually just send them straight from Follow Up Boss. Again, like video is something which we don't all want to do, right? Like I'm fine to get on like this, but I don't send out a lot of personal videos. I probably should. I do think they're very effective. So again, if you can really, just make half an hour a week to send out some video touch points for people, I do think you're going to get results from that. And then I think you can also be using that on a more mass scale. Like, again, like you may think no one wants to hear from you, but a lot of people do, right? And if you can get in front of people on video, again, maybe in your monthly newsletter, walk them through the current market or some cool events that are going on, some of the stats, I think those are really valuable things. And again, like just look for leverage. Like you can just reuse the same video on Instagram, YouTube, your newsletter. So I think that's smart. Mia also had one other question about forwarding emails. That would definitely be something cool to add. So I don't think we have the forwarding function in there, but yeah, I think that'll probably be the kind of thing we'll probably look at adding this year.
Perfect. We'd love to take any questions on the side. We're waiting for Justin. Hey there.
Eric here. Hey, Eric, I think you're muted.
Hey, I don't mean to interrupt at all, but Justin apparently is having technical difficulties at the moment, so he should be back on the podcast here shortly. Just thought I'd give you all a heads up.
Should we keep going? I can keep asking.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah, so Dan's going to buy StreamYard, and then that's not going to happen again. So we're good.
I love the platform. Well, Jen, Jen's a new host.
That's awesome. Well, Jen can take over. She's phenomenal, actually. Jen, she's got a pretty interesting niche down there as well. She does a lot of. Jen, why don't you tell us like investment properties and some of the other stuff that you guys do?
I do a lot of rehabs. I'm in Portland, Oregon, so we have a lot of older homes that I love, and they're getting torn down to build these big monstrous houses. So we like to sort of work with people, with families who, it's grandma's house and they want to keep it standing, and so we go in and we rehab it and sell it, to new buyers, and oftentimes the families are just thrilled. They're so happy that it was just a really nice progression, and our goal is to have grandma walk back into the house and just cry, and it's happened a few times, which that warms my heart. We bring in new buyers, revitalize the neighborhood. The other nice part about it is oftentimes that house is the eyesore of the neighborhood, so the neighbors are thrilled, and a lot of the neighbors are nervous it's going to get torn down, and a huge building is going to be put up, so it works out really well. And I've been doing that for about 5 or 6 years, and I'm really, really enjoying it, trying to really niche down into that. And I think I'll tailor my CRM to that now. So I will definitely look into your CRM.
Apparently you need to start a podcast too, because everybody's going crazy for you. Sorry, go ahead, Dan.
I was just going to say, I love that. I mean, there's a lot of that going on in Austin as well. People, tearing down houses and stuff. So I think there's so much cool story you can obviously tell about that. I'm sure you're already doing some of it, but like, that's the kind of stuff people would love to get a video about. Like, hey, look at this restoration we did, and like, this is why we're doing it. And like, do you know anyone else, where we can do the same thing? So that's a really cool story. Yeah,
absolutely.
Hey, Jen, has anybody told you that you should document that and put that out in video before?
No, that's the first time I've heard it.
We had to talk about this months ago. I'm like, Jen, you need your own TV show, make it a YouTube channel, turn it into a 6-figure side business, and we can all collaborate one day and talk about when we had this conversation. How's that sound?
Clearly my devious plot worked to take over your podcast. So
first time in history, really weird that you came on and then all of a sudden I got kicked out of the old podcast, right?
Smarter than I look, I'm telling you.
Thank you so much for coming on, Jen. We appreciate you, and I'll see you out there in the wild. So yeah, Dan, I think, we've covered a lot. We've covered how to get started, why you even need a CRM. Thanks for answering the questions for Olivier and Jen. I think anybody else that's in the audience, if you don't want to come on the actual stream, feel free to ask questions in the chats. I see a couple that we'll hop into in a moment here, but I want to get back to practical advice, right? So we talked about how to segment. We talked about what details to track, tagging. You gave us some really cool tips, like even for myself, like my past clients, my new leads, and my hot list. Like, just focus on those 3, get really narrow focused on what you're doing to capitalize on them. But one topic I wanted to discuss is CRMs versus project management softwares. I think sometimes people want a one-stop shop for everything. I think they need to be separate. So what's your high level on that?
Yeah, I would say I would just agree. I mean, I think we use Basecamp a lot internally. I know there's a lot of other project management systems out there. How about yourself? What are you guys using?
Oh, man, I'm a system junkie. You guys have kept me for a long time because I've used Asana, I've used Trello, I've used Monday.com, I've used Basecamp and Notion a little bit. We always kind of regressing back to Trello just because we've built it out and it makes the most sense for us right now. But every time somebody mentions a new one, I start messing around and doing the free trial. So I feel like I'm going to go down that wormhole.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I'm using Notion a bit personally just to organize all my stuff. And then we use Basecamp with the team.
Sure.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of attraction to like managing everything in one system. I saw Mia's mention a few more things about like deal pipelines and stuff. We are going to look at adding a few extra features there with deals. So I think, that'll make some people happy. But I definitely think there's a point where especially for project management, you need like a lot of checklist type stuff and communication tools. So yeah, I think look into stuff like Basecamp. I can't believe how little we pay, or even Trello is the same, right? It's so cheap.
I think we're still on the free version, to be honest with you. God. Like, yeah, it's bananas. But the only thing was now it's getting so robust with the team. And here's a great segue into this part of the conversation. You guys deal with single agents that maybe have a couple assistants. You deal with entire brokerages that are, say, brokerages that have independent contractors. You have team leaders that have direct teams. we're a unicorn. Like, I don't know another company that's structured like Prime, where we have the real estate, we have all our divisions, we have our like internal team, then we have our external team, and then we have our agency and the production company. We've managed to use Follow Up Boss to kind of cover all of those bases. But, you know, again, just understanding that there is no one solution for everybody. You kind of have to build out the system within the platform. How do you guys manage that? Like, creating a software solution for one avatar doesn't exist for you. So how do you approach that topic?
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting one. I think we also use it ourselves for our sales team. And again, like, we're a software business, very different to real estate. We sort of just kept it in mind as we're building the software. Like, we realized, like, hey, we don't want to sort of narrow ourselves down too much. Like, initially we did start like, hey, we're very focused on the online lead aspect of the real estate business. And that was what a lot of functionality was built out around. But I think now we realize, like, again, like we talked about, like, so much of people's business comes from past clients and Sphere. So now we're starting to look at, like, well, how can we do a bit more in those areas? Like, how can we make it a bit clearer how to use the system? Because you already can use the system, but maybe we're not guiding you in the best way. So I think what we're thinking a lot about now is not just like adding more features, but like, how can we be better at like educating people and showing them how to use the features they've already got, instead of just like, here's our 120th feature, because, people have limited time. And I think there's a lot of leverage you can get with the existing stuff. But yeah, that's what we're trying to really up our game on, and sort of maybe have different education for those different types, right? Because like you're getting at, like, a team is very different to a single agent, and and what they want to be focused on.
Two quick notes on that. So one, as somebody that, brings on people and I onboard them onto our systems, you guys have an amazing help structure section as well. And I think that's part of the problem, is like, you spend a lot of time building out these help documents and videos, but like 90% of people won't even watch them, right? They'll just be like, well, how do I do this? I just want you to tell me. Meanwhile, you have hundreds of hours of training that's available. I do think the onus of care is a little bit on the user to spend time in their calendar. Like, when I said I blocked off 30 minutes, in the beginning of my career, it was 30 minutes of watching your tutorial videos every day. So I wasn't really doing a lot in the system. I was like, okay, how do I use this? How do I use this? How do I use this? And now I got so busy, all I do is I go into your support ticket and I hit my success manager. I'm like, how do I fix this? I got to deal with all this. And they're pretty cool at how quickly they respond and they fix those things. I do think that's probably the biggest thing you could work on, is how do you educate people on the best integrations and optimizing their systems? Because a lot of people get stuck in CRMs with all of the features, and then they get paralysis by analysis and they give up, and they're like, it's too complicated now, I don't want to use it. Right. So, I definitely think that's a good point. Sorry, I didn't turn my watch off and it's ringing. So Mr. Leo Grant, he's an awesome dude. Thank you, Justin and Dan, for putting this on. Great info. Longtime CRM user, from agent office to top producer. Top producer has been sold and their migration's been slow. It's pushed us to use something else. 3 questions. 1, admin account, non-sales, could they have their own contact calendar list? So I'll hit that question first. So if they have an admin account, so they're not sales, can they have their own contact/calendar list?
Yeah, it's pretty easy to segment and Follow Up Boss. Like, how it basically works, if you're an admin, like the account owner, like Justin, you can kind of see everyone's stuff, but you can also then segment and say, hey, I just want to see my own contacts.
Yep.
And then the agents underneath you, like, they would only see the contacts they have access to. So that's how that sort of segmentation works.
I got to be careful. I screen share a lot on my lives, and I was like going to pull up my database, but then you're going to see everybody's name. So probably won't do that. But yeah, Leo, you can do that. I do that all the time. So we'll go by like name and segment. So I have a project, for example, like Port Landing's big new development site, and I've got multiple agents on it. I can actually go through and see the lead distribution to each agent, and they can go in and see just their own. So it's not convoluted on their side. Number 2, will each agent on the team have their own contact/calendar? Example, card dav, with just their contacts versus the main database? I think the answer is yes, right, Dan?
Yeah, I'm not 100% familiar with the card dav. I sort of remember kind of what that is, but yeah, basically everyone can see their own contacts. And by the way, with sharing your database on the live stream, you're going to love this new feature we added, Justin.
What's that?
For people like you and Renee, it's actually just called blur mode. So it's going to blur. You turn it on, it blurs out everyone's phone numbers and details, and you can share your account for training and so on. So
that's super sick. Yeah, I actually did it by accident the one day, so I had to like take it down and trim it down. because I saw that.
Oh, right.
I was going live and I was like, look at this integration. Look how I do this and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, that's awesome. I just got the balance of Leo's question because it was too big for StreamYard. Let me just read it off here for you. Number 3 was, what do you think separates you from, say, a KV Core? Sorry, the last one. Do you have anything similar for internal chat? So sorry, what would separate you, I guess, from other CRMs? And then do you have any internal chat feature in the CRM?
Cool. Yeah. So I think what separates us is we're very focused on the CRM and sales part of it, whereas a lot of other platforms are more all in one, where they're also doing their websites and marketing. So we try and be really good at that and then plug into everything else instead of trying to do everything for you. Because what we know is like your marketing sources are going to change, and we don't want you to have to change your CRM every time that happens.
Yeah. You want to know something we're working on? So we actually already have it. So we use Google Workspace as our backend. My wife and I were on a motorhome road trip. We were in the mountains in Tennessee, and we were like, there's no solution for us. We own the brokerage. I'm in production. Like, you have Lone Wolf and it's just super complex and you have your database. I'm like, what if we just build one from the beginning out, right? Our CRM, our transaction management, communications, and everything. And then we actually had an epiphany. We're like, A, technology is moving so quickly. It makes no sense to do that. B, we're not in the software development game, and it doesn't really make sense for us to go away from our core competency. What if we built like a site and then had all the APIs integrate with it? So our follow-up boss and our transaction coordination system, which happens to be Brokerman, and a few other ones in comms. And that, to me, that's where I think the magic is, Leo, is you can pick the comms platform you want. You can pick the CRM you want, transaction management. And then if it's not working for you, you have that ability to switch, where I think sometimes if you have too robust of a solution, you're kind of stuck shifting everything all at once, which may be cumbersome, but that's just my opinion based on my experience. So so I think that answers most of that. We got Jamie. She said she used blur mode. Jamie, you're a brand new user. I've been using Follow Up Boss for almost a decade, and I didn't even know it existed. Look at you. And we have Miazal. An important thing I loved is if you add written notes in the reporting or a custom category. I do know you guys have a notes feature. I use it all the time. Custom categories. I use tags for categories, Mia. So I don't know if you could use that as your solution. Dan, I didn't know if you wanted to address any of these.
Yeah, I think some people want to just do more tracking. I think what Mia's asking for, of like, oh, I'm sending out a handwritten note. Like, I'd like to log that in the system. So I think there's some like, like you could maybe log it as a call or something like that right now. But again, like that's going to affect your call stats. So yeah, that's a cool idea. Must see if there's something else we can do there. We get a few people asking for that for sure.
And she's also asking if you can forward emails down the road. Mia's got a list of questions here for you. I do know, do you guys still use that feature where Mia can log that queue in and then it goes in kind of that queue of features that to be added? Because I remember that early on. That was such a cool feature. I'm not in it as much anymore. My admin runs it.
Yeah, absolutely. In the top right, you can click your avatar and name, and then you can go to, I think it's called Roadmap. You actually see what we're working on now, and then you can upvote or suggest other features. So,
there it is. I just found it.
check that out.
I can share this. Okay, I can share this. I'm not going to give away the goods. I should try and figure out blur mode too, so it doesn't.
Blur mode's under power up, so it's a similar thing at the top right. You should be able to hit that at some point as well.
So there's a frozen conservation area. It's called Algonquin National Park in Canada. If you ever want to come feel cold, come hang out with us there. There you go. All right. So yeah, this is pretty cool. This was, I remember early on, you had it as like a feed, like upvoted, and then you guys would work on whatever had the most upvotes. It's cool. So this is under consideration, working on, and then launched features. So unlimited call box attendance, custom only fields, smart lists for deals. Again, I got to spend more time jumping in this to optimize because I think there's stuff in here that I haven't even been looking at. So pretty cool that you guys are still working on that stuff. Let me take that back off. All right, so I don't want to take up too much of your time. So we got about 5 minutes left in the episode. We're going to get to some questions for you as well. I do want to ask you before we get to the rapid fire segment of this, what do you think the future of CRMs is? Is it in the metaverse? I'm going to put my Oculus on. I'm going to walk through my database. Like, what's the 20% of your brain working on that maybe doesn't make sense to the average consumer right now?
Yeah, I would say it's like, well, how can we take all this data we have? So Follow Up Boss has a lot of data and similar systems, right? And then how can we make it just as simple as possible for you guys to do your job? And that's, I think, a lot of just marrying, like, what are these business best practices and like strategies we should be implementing? But again, like how instead of it like being like, I don't know, a 10-step process to make a video and send it to your database, database, how can that be sort of one step? Or like, so how can a lot of
Sure.
these things be simpler is what I think about. Yeah, I don't know about the metaverse and all that stuff.
Yeah, I was just kidding.
Maybe some smarter people can work that out than me. So
I always laugh. I'm like, we've been in the metaverse for a decade. Like, if you've played World of Warcraft, you've been in the metaverse. It isn't a screen that's attached to your face. And I'll throw this out there to you since I like collaborating. I mean, I just started using Loom at a very high level with my clients. It has changed the game for us. And you guys are in a space where you could potentially integrate with a company like Loom and offer that as an integration. Actually, this was a question, Bomb. I know you already do. So, how do you, I guess, what can you do with an integration like Bomb and a platform like Follow Up Boss? That was a question from one of our audience members.
Yeah, I mean, basically just makes it really easy to send a video email to someone. You can just click the little bomb icon, record a video, send it out directly in the system. We also have a video texting feature you can just use in our mobile apps now. So you can just record a quick video, send it out to someone,
Nice.
Via text. But yeah, we were talking about video before. It's just so effective. I mean, a lot of us are hesitant to do videos, but yeah, they work. People love them. So
It's changed the game. If you're watching this and you're an agent, a strategy we've been using because we're in lockdown in Ontario right now. So if Dan wants to go buy beachfront property, I could take you on a virtual tour in a video, show you 3 properties, but they're listed for, call it $799, underlisted. They're going to sell for $1 million. I could show you the comps, send you the video, you watch it at your leisure. It's just a way more effective way and saving you time from driving down and seeing stuff you're not going to buy anyways, right? So I think video is the future. Rapid fire question. I want to learn a little bit about Dan. We're going to do a follow-up episode with the Follow-Up Boss for sure, because I could go on for days with you. But up to this point, irregardless of the systems and the conversation around CRMs, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, what's the greatest lesson you've learned up to this point?
I would say just find and recruit the best people you can. Everything's going to become easier if you have a great team.
People over profits. You're my type of guy. I already asked you what you're learning right now. I guess the next one would be, how has failure shaped your life?
Yeah, I would say I always just look at it more as learning. People are like, oh, do you ever fail with anything with Follow Up Boss? I'm sure lots of stuff failed, but I think it's just you're trying things. And I think most people in life play everything too safe. They're worried about failure.
Yep.
Whereas let's just go try something. Yeah, you're probably going to suck the first time you try snowboarding, right? Everyone does.
Yep.
You're going to fall over a lot, but then you're going to get better. So yeah, I don't really think of it a ton as failure. I just think you've got to put yourself out there, try new things, suck a little bit, and then you're going to get better and build skills and, then ultimately be successful, right? So I think that's just a mindset thing.
Imagine living your life so scared of doing something that you never try and you never know if you could have actually done it, right? Probably building a CRM was one of those things for you. So who do you know that I should know, or who do you think would be an awesome guest on this podcast? No name is too big or too small. I just love to know.
Can you get Elon or Snoop Dogg?
I was actually thinking of the way you answered that question because I saw Elon say yesterday that he's not a pessimist or an optimist. He's like, there's work to be done. That's just how I think about it. Right. So I'll shoot for Elon. Do you have anybody else in our ecosystem that you think could be a good fit?
Let me think. I mean, I think there's a lot of good customers in the Follow Up Boss ecosystem. People like Gary Ashton, #1 Remax team. Justin Haver is up there in Canada. Have you had him on?
You know what? Our names have crossed paths a couple times too. I don't think we've ever made a connection. So I'm just writing these down. eScarf producer, can you write these down as well? And we'll see if we can reach out to these guys for Dan.
Justin would be fun for sure.
Interesting. Okay, cool. What have you read that I should read? You probably seem like a guy that reads a book or two.
Yeah, my wife makes fun of me because I buy these books and I don't read all of them. What have I read recently?
I've got 3 right now that I'm reading. I'm like, I start them and then don't finish them, but Traction, Sold, and $100 million offers. So there's 3 for you. What do you got for me?
The Gap and the Gain is one I was reading a bit of lately. And it's basically just about how entrepreneurs can sometimes get so focused on the future, they forget to be happy now. So I think just looking back a bit more at how much progress you've made, I think that's one of their core messages in that book.
I do think as an entrepreneur, sometimes you always have this insatiable, you probably feel you haven't even gotten started, even though you've built what you've built. You wake up and you're like, oh, imposter syndrome. And it's normal. Everybody that I know that has an onus of success feels that way. So I like that you answered it. The last most important question of all time: how can I add value to you? Where can I drive my audience? How can they connect with you? My platform is yours.
Yeah, first of all, I just appreciate coming on. If you got, if anyone wants to check out Follow Up Boss, we've got a free trial, just followupboss.com. If you want to send me an email, just dan@followupboss.com. Definitely happy to help. And, I know there's a few feature suggestions. Feel free to send those through as well. We're always trying to improve the platform. And, I work pretty closely with the product and engineering team still. So, yeah, thanks for having me on, man.
The whole real estate network is here and watching in the back. They just sent me a message. So Rain is here. You might get more than you bargained for, asking for product updates. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with me and Dan. That was a killer episode, Dan. You absolutely crushed it. And you can catch us on the Prime People podcast anytime. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any. If you want to go back and rewatch this episode, feel free. Please connect with Dan, send him a thank you, and let us know in Practical and Tactical what your biggest takeaway was from this episode. And I guess I'll see you on episode number 2 in the future. Right, Dan?
Yeah, for sure. See you guys.
Awesome. Thanks, brother.